NHD?
What's NHD?
National History Day.
Oh, okay. And what is your name again?
Ruth Skolnick-Schur.
Okay, Ruth, how are you today? I'm Wes.
Oh, hi. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so, do you want to just get started, or do you want me to, kind of explain, what NHD is about?
Why don't you explain what you're about, and then we can get started. How's that?
Okay, so,
Right.
NHD, or National History Day, it's a competition that middle school through high school students compete in, and there's a new theme every year, and it's obviously about history, so this year's theme is leadership and legacy. And me and my partner, Allie Reeves, she isn't here today, but we're working on the project together. We're doing ours on Ralph Abernathy.
Uh-huh.
And and my dad is Richard Schur, so he knew you from the NAACP, so he recommended that we interview you about it since you're kind of like part of the movement. And so you can make put out certain types of projects, like you can do a documentary, a website, an exhibit, a paper, and Allie and we're doing a website, so we just wanted to interview you and then put the interview on the website.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, and so is it okay if we record you so we can put the audio on there?
Sure.
All right, that's great. Did you get the questions? I emailed them to you, but I have them as well.
Okay, you can go ahead with the questions. I remember seeing them, but I have been. Unfortunately, my mother passed away this past week.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's really unfortunate.
That's okay. And so she'd been in the hospice for like the last 9 days before that. And so although I saw them, I don't recall them. But you could just ask me the questions, and I'll respond and reply.
Okay. So, first, what role did you play in the NAACP?
Okay, let's see. It was about in 1965. I was a high school student at Central. I actually was a freshman.
Oh, that's actually where we go to school.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a freshman at Central. And it was also during the period, of course, during the civil rights movement. And Luther King and his lieutenants, Ralph Abernathy, Andy Young, Jesse Jackson, and, of course, they were all a part of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And so they were publicized, they're being publicized on the television and in the news medium. So there was a Baptist minister here by the name of Reverend William E. Pitt, and a professor back then it was Southwest Missouri State College, SMS, and the professor of history, his name was Anderson McCullough. And so they organized an NAACP Youth Council. And so from 1965, and I was elected the president of the NAACP Youth Council. And so from that point on, we became involved in local demonstrations. We became involved in keeping abreast of what was going on in Springfield as far as civil rights and challenging the status quo or during that particular period of time. So we raised issues regarding discrimination in housing and education, public accommodations, and things of that nature. And so at the age of 15, I just sort of got involved in the civil rights movement. And the reason we were involved, of course, was that Martin Luther King and the Southern Christian Leadership Council, Southern Leadership, SCLC,
Yeah.
we're on a national scene. And so it sort of inspired local people here in Springfield to get involved in the political process, to get involved in direct action, addressing some of the same issues that we saw identified on television during every evening.
Oh, okay. And so then, so that's all. So, how did you decide to get involved with the NAACP, like with the youth council? I know you explained that you were like elected president of it, but how did you get elected?
Initially it was that, as young people, I mean, you're seeing what was going on nationally around you. We knew that the discrimination was not right. We knew that the mistreatment of African Americans, the denial of them the right to participate in the political process, the beatings and things that we saw was not right. And so as young people, we wanted to speak out against that. And so these two mentors organized us, and I just sort of took to it like a duck to water. I mean, I've always been one who I think would be willing to speak truth to power. And so it just came to, even at a young age, I saw something that was wrong. I saw injustice, and I felt I needed to do something about it. So I was fortunate at that point in time to have these two who organized us and worked with us, and got us involved in, what was going on here locally, but being aware of what was going on in the nation, even though it's, sometimes if you don't have a vehicle to get involved or to address issues, you can be frustrated, you can give up, you can have low self-esteem. Well, we had a vehicle, and it was through the NAACP, and along with understanding the history of the NAACP, understanding the need to speak out against injustice, it was just that, we were empowered to get involved. And so that's how I got involved as a young man, about 15 years old.
Okay. And then in the youth council, how did you guys contribute to the civil rights movement? Like, did you do any marches or anything?
Oh, yeah, there were a number of different. One time we marched, and you got to understand, I was in the NAACP Youth Council from 65, actually, when I was in high school, on up until several years in college.
Okay.
So you're talking about from 65 up to 71, but there were a number of demonstrations that we participated in. There was an open housing demonstration. I remember there was an apartment complex across from Missouri State University at the time, over on Grand and National, and there were students, white female students, were being evicted because they had black friends who would come and visit. And so we led a demonstration against that. The largest demonstration probably was in 1971, when we led a demonstration that was demonstrating against the disparate treatment of students at Central High School. When there would be a dispute among students who may happen to be black or may happen to be white, generally the punishment was unfair. For instance, they would send the black students home, but they wouldn't send the white students home who may have been involved in a fight. And so there is a long, this was going on. There was also a lack of the contributions of African Americans in the curriculum. And so we demonstrated against the fact that, there was no contributions of people of color in our curriculum when we're at school. And you can't have American history without having the history of all folks who have lived in this nation, and certainly African Americans, Latinos, Asians, gay and lesbian people. But at the time, it had to do about the lack of contributions that were identified in our in the curriculum in our public school system. And so we led this demonstration in 1971, and actually we had students leave Central High School, and there were black and white students, there were parents, there were community folks, there was a lot of different people involved. And so at a designated time, we had the students leave Springfield, leave Central, and march out onto the campus right out there on Central Street and Benton, Central and Benton. And they sat down. I've got some pictures somewhere, a picture of that. And they sat down, and at a designated time, then we started a march down to the public square. And then the Missouri State students, at the designated time, left Missouri State, and back then it was SMS, and marched down to the square. And we all met on the square. And back in those days, you could go in and out of the square in 4 different directions. It wasn't that little loop that you have now. that little square circle that you have. And so we actually stopped all traffic going in and out in 4 different directions. And so after that particular march, the school district decided to, they developed a curriculum, and it was called actually the Negro Contributions to America, and that became a part of the public school curriculum. They also stopped the practice of having disparate punishment for students of color. Matter of fact, there was a student some years ago when I was in California, living in California. He did a research project on it. I may still have that paper, which sort of outlined some of the issues that were not only going on here locally, but also were going on nationally. So you had a lot of different demonstrations that were happening throughout the United States about the same time. But that was something that was particular to Springfield, was the fact that as students and as parents, our parents, we organized this demonstration. We probably planned it for about a week. There were meetings out at the Community Youth Center, which is where Jordan Valley Health Center is.
Yeah, Jordan Valley Park.
That's next to that church. I believe it's Pitts Chapel. That used to be the Community Youth Center. And so we had actually packed out that entire Community Youth Center and there were, I remember Dr. Walford Johnson, who was a professional, a doctor. He was a part of the organization, of our efforts. I mean, it was a very diverse movement here in Springfield, and probably the largest direct action demonstration that's ever been held in the history of Springfield in relation to addressing issues of civil rights.
Okay, and then can you just kind of describe the feeling that you get while you are participating in these movements? During that march and whenever you blocked off